Hello and welcome to this breaking news episode of What Most People Think, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it about, which anybody that's seen the tour will know what that refers to. I am here in Morecambe. You might have just heard me move my laptop there because I'm in a Travelodge in Morecambe and I'm on the road a few days and I forgot to bring my main microphone. So I'm trying to make the sound better by being on the bed. But basically, if somebody walks in cleaning now, it just looks like I'm speaking to a laptop, but not even that there's somebody on the other end because I've got a Word document open. It looks like I'm speaking to a Word document. It feels like a new low, but I just thought, we need to catch up every week at the moment, because this week's been a hell of a week. Starmer and Trump falling out. What was it that Trump said about Starmer? He's no Winston Churchill. I mean, what I do think is in the year that Keir Starmer's had, just saying he's not a Winston Churchill might be the nicest thing that anybody has said about him this year. If I was a Starmer, after he disobeyed Trump, I would have been braced for what's he going to do? Is he going to say, I've got a tiny cock? Do you know what I mean? Or is he going to give me a nickname like Little Keir? I mean, that probably could come. And he says he's no Winston Churchill. I'd have gone, well, yeah, I'll take that all day long. I mean, I would say that maybe he might not even be a John Major, even. And Liz Truss, maybe that's a bit harsh. But there was a fiery PMQs as well. Did Starmer go full head teacher mode? I'm going to tell people off that patronising way that he sometimes does. Yes. Did Kemi go a bit too far with the old party politics? Probably. We'll talk about all that. We're going to fold in a bit of spring statement stuff. I mean, the least relevant spring statement ever. Normally I'd do a whole show on that, but who gives a fuck? There's war. I mean, everything she said had been superseded. I mean, for Rachel Reeves, who had her last budget, which was the most focused, trailed, leaked budget ever, and all her fault, this time, I think she had a nice light colour on. She just breezed in, and it was almost like theoretical, wasn't it? Well, if everything that's currently happening wasn't happening, this is a rough idea of what I'd do. It was like a panel show, wasn't it? What would you do if everything stayed exactly as it is? But we will still talk about some of that stuff, and a shock poll that puts the Tories and Labour in third and fourth. I don't know. Is that a shock at this point? I'm not sure it is. I've got quite a few gigs on the road over the next 2 weeks. I'm going to admit that I got a bit panicked by the panic buy-in petrol. There isn't much, and I did not go out and panic buy it. I had an even more sophisticated long game than that. I thought, look, I cannot. The idea of not making a tour show when people, and I am such a lovely guy for doing this, but when people have booked tickets, sometimes hotels, do you know what I mean? It really stresses me out. So I thought I need to know that I can get to all these tour shows, and some of them are in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. No offence, Red Roof. No offence, Hedge End. But so I decided to hire an electric car because I thought, the price wasn't that bad. It's like 500 quid for 2 weeks. And I thought, do you know what? It just takes it out of the equation. But when I went to hire it, I must just look and sound really thick. Be honest, do I? Because I went in there and I said to the guy, and I was doing the paperwork, and I was interested. I said, have you experienced a spike, because of everything that's going on, a spike in electric car hires? And he went, yeah. He said, because there's a war going on, bruv. I was like, yeah, that's the reason I said, yeah, like the petrol price is going up. And he went, and they're going up because of a war? And this kid was fucking 22. I was like, the whole reason I asked you the question is, I felt like saying, now look here, my boy. I host a show on Times Radio. I once had to do rolling coverage because of a fallout at the White House. But I just went, yeah, cheers, mate. Fucking bastards as well. It was supposed to be a Volvo, and they gave me some sort of scratchy little Fiat electric thing. But anyway, this thing about electric vehicles, this is like a test run for me for my next car. And I've got to say, I'm not there yet because the electric vehicle is a liar. You charge it up, right? First up, it doesn't charge up like a full, it's not the same as a full tank, is it? And then it says, this charge, you'll get 240 miles on this charge. 20 miles later, or 160 miles left. You little liar. And, it does my head in because I'm just constantly focused on. And then also there's all that time that you've got to spend at service stations. On the way up to Carlisle, right, I spent an hour and a half just charging the car, just sitting at service stations, absolutely having to take out a mortgage with Greg's, just drinking way more coffee than I needed, wired to shit. So, look, man, I know that, like, the electric car people, you're all smug in that. Well, I've seen the other side of it now, and, I look, the moment that I'm confident again in petrol, is petrol all the way. Hybrids, baby, it's the way.
What most people think.
A little bit of feedback after the last show. We had Davina Bentley on. Vast majority really enjoyed Davina. A couple of people, obviously, she was very open about her feelings about men, as she referred to it herself, her misandry. You know, I would like to say that I pushed back. I mean, I think I did more than push back. I think I spent most of the episode winding her up, really, which wasn't very mature of me. But yeah, something like not every guest is going to be everyone's cup of tea. I would say overwhelmingly the episode has done well for downloads and people enjoyed it. But one person made a good point, was sort of saying, you know, it's all well and good that, you know, and this is a person that enjoyed Davina, it said, but she can just come out and say that she's a misandrist. If I went on someone else's podcast and said that I was a misogynist, could you imagine? Can you imagine? Just sat there and just said, by the way, I hate women, and didn't have a punchline with it, you know. So I think that is a fair point, but thank you for all the feedback there. And, you know, I just really appreciate it. Listening to this podcast today, you know that it's going to be a rolling fucking cast of people. It's not like the rest of this politics, the same people meeting up every week to have the same fucking disagreements. We have new disagreements. I did quite enjoy. I mean, I think I said some fairly sexist things as well, but I just sort of made out I was being ironic when obviously it's what I really think. New patrons, Jamie Shields. I think some of you guys are returning ones this week. Jamie Shields, it feels like your name is missing a D. Alexander Findlow, that's a new one. Alexander Findlow, that'd be like 21-year-old novelist that has released their book episodically on TikTok or something fucking weird. Damien Brady, who sounds like an Irish gangster, or maybe a Northern Ireland. Damien Brady was in the pub asking for you earlier, you wee bastard. Damien Brady. You don't want to piss off Damien or any of the Brady family. The Brady bunch operating out of Derry or Londonderry, depending on which community. Oh my God, what? I've got a Belfast show coming up. Stop doing this, Jeff. Winding everybody up. Right, first up by doing the whole Derry Londonderry thing, but then also doing a shit accent. Pippa Trench. Pippa Trench is a returner, so I don't know if something's happened to your card or you just got back involved. I mean, the podcast Patreon community is growing, so hopefully that suggests that you guys are seeing value in it, so it's good to have you back. Also, I think a similar story for Guy Orton. Guy Orton, there's a lot of... How many vowels are in your name? For a 8 vowels. There's a lot of vowels, Guy Orton. Case, please, it's like countdown. Stick another consonant in there. But yeah, the Patreon... By the way, you'll have noticed that there are more breaking news episodes, and the volume of patrons contributes to that. Obviously, patrons get free tickets for stuff, get the podcast early, ad-free, and with bonus content. But also, it funds... You know, I can make an argument with my agent to say, look, you know, I need to do more breaking news. So it all makes sense, and thank you very much. I love you all. Speaking of thank yous, I want to say thank you to Lindsay Hoyle and the MPs, which sounds like a shit band, a shit house band, because there was this video that went viral at the House of Commons, and it was basically all the MPs, they had someone in from Strictly, some bloke, you know, some fucking six-pack in sequence, come in and talk them out cha-cha-cha, paso doble, and look, I mean, here's the thing, right? Given, you know, stressful things, should people not do anything in the workplace that might be fun? Probably not. There was a bit of a slightly grinchy reaction to this, but I do wonder whether or not people should have thought through the idea of the country at a time when, you know, British territories have been under attack, of just dancing. I don't know. I mean, is it quite British in a way? You know, the band played on, that sort of thing. I don't know, but, you know, if you look at the anti-politics wing of this country, I mean, the worst thing you could show them is just all the MPs having a lovely time while sort of fiddling while Rome burns. And maybe like all political metaphors, you know, go back to why was Freebiegate such a problem for Starmer? Maybe because people had secret fears that he was being not what he seemed and was being controlled by someone else. Why was the umbrella so important for Rishi? Is because people maybe thought that he wasn't equipped to weather the storm, you know, and doing the cha-cha-cha while British bases are being fired upon. You can see why it's a problem as an optic. And also, you know, there's the issue of extra pay. I do think like this country is in a weird place on MPs' pay. You know, it's gone up 5%, and it is an independent pay body. It's not. People always say online they've voted themselves into it. No, they haven't. It's an independent pay body, and some of that will be to do with retention. Being an MP, I'm sorry, this is my most controversial views. Being an MP is a shit job. It's getting shitter. That's why they're getting shitter. And we need to pay them more. I mean, we need to double their pay. No one's willing to have that conversation, are they? We need to double MPs' pay, 200 grand minimum. And no one's willing to do that. Because the problem with, right, we look back at the expenses scandal and it was a great moment of democracy, of putting a spotlight on MPs. But, you know, it was kind of sort of baked into their earnings, wasn't it? That you could renovate the odd moat here and there as long as you keep quiet about it, right? And so ever since then, you know, people will look at a job, right? They'll have heard, yeah, but look, you know, the basic is just the basic, but you can employ half your family and you can have a second home. And so we are losing quality all the time. I've said for a while, I want to do a documentary about why would anybody become an MP. I was in development with one production company for it. And maybe it was a bit too soon after the last election, but I do think it's quantitatively a shitter, harder job. You can't even fucking do a cha-cha-cha without everyone giving you shit. The fuck you, SNL, so Saturday Night Live in America, not to be confused with the one to launch in Britain. And by the way, I've had a few journalists and stuff reach out to me about Saturday Night Live in Britain. I think that essentially they want me to shit on it. I'm not gonna shit on it, right? This is a comedy entertainment format in Britain. Do you know how rare that's been in the last 3 years? I mean, everyone in comedy is mental if they don't want this to work, even for selfish reasons. But, you know, there's young comics, you know, good luck to them, you know. It was never gonna... There are some comics my age, you know, threw our hat in the ring for various elements, writing and all that sort of stuff, and they've gone for younger people. But, like, I get it. You know, if you look at Saturday Night Live in the US, it's always been a younger thing. But anyway, they did this sketch in the US, and it was about, is it John Davidson, the guy with Tourette's, that shouted the N-word at the BAFTAs, right? And this sketch was basically loads of, inverted commas, toxic celebrities, sort of blaming all of their behaviour on Tourette's, right? Now, firstly, you know, I don't think anyone should lose their jobs over this. What had the furore over it? It was a joke, which I think that they got wrong. I think that the way that they present, I understand the point is that celebrities will kind of claim mental health, you know, or whatever reason they can to get out of the shit. But I don't think that point was made within the sketch. And it did just come off fairly fucking ignorant. Do you know what I mean? It is literally an example of, you know, it's supposed to be a right-wing talking point, wasn't it? The victim Olympics. But it is exactly that, isn't it? Is that because that word and because of the status that they give that word, the other disability or the other disadvantage involved just doesn't figure at all. I mean, it just... And the irony of a film about Tourette's to teach people exactly what Tourette's is, it is really weird. I mean, listen, with this month so far, we might have found out that militarily we are a long way off the lights of the US, but I do think when it comes to Tourette's, we might have a slightly better understanding. Go Britain! Okay, let's get into, well, I would say a busy week of politics, but I would say it's busy since the last time we spoke 2 days ago of politics. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Donald Trump was never going to be happy that Keir didn't back his military action. I mean, it's probably the strongest Keir Starmer has come out against anything Starmer said. What has he said? There's no viable plan there, and you can't kind of install democracy via the skies and stuff like that. It's pretty direct from Starmer, you know, and he referred to the legal stuff. And as I said earlier, Donald Trump said, this is no Winston Churchill. I mean, that is, I mean, in one way, isn't it? Like, that is deliberately hurtful because, you know, he's a kind of benchmark for strong prime ministers. But he's also such a strong figure in British kind of political history that it does make it not as much of an insult as he thinks it is. I think even Farage said it. I think it's actually an understatement. And, you know, when it comes to not being involved in Iran, it's fair, you know, this podcast is called What Most People Think. The British public, you know, a lot of polling suggests broadly behind him. A plurality of people are behind him. I would say there's a slight caveat to that, is when have the British public ever been involved in getting in any conflict? Even if you look back to polling around the Great Wars, there was a lot of reluctance there. I mean, essentially, it's human nature, isn't it? and it's probably similar across Western Europe, right? It's like seeing a fight at Butlins. You know what I mean? One of those big families that the moment you arrive there, you're like, fucking, they're just sitting there drinking all day. You're going, roughly around 8 p.m, this is going to go tits up. And then suddenly chairs are flying. You're not going to go in to stop that fight, are you? What you're going to do is going to go, oh, that's awful, but I really hope someone else stops that. I really hope someone else tries to separate those two women that have had a sort of a kind of Rottweiler or a pit bull-like grip on each other's hair for the last 7 minutes. And, you know, it's finally something Keir Starmer's done or said that his party like, that the public broadly like. And is he finally going to have his Hugh Grant moment now, you know, of standing up to the US president? Is he going to go further? Is he going to go further? And another thing, Donald, what is going on with your hair? What is going? It's so ridiculously thin. But it's kind of interesting because, like, what happened was the move from the UK, which was complicated, I think, personally, right? I'll get to what I think in a minute, but personally, I think when it came to letting the US use our bases, if we were going to get to that point eventually, we should have just done it immediately. It's too complicated, right? It's very Starmer legalist. Look, so the reason I did this was because 0.174 of that, like, it's too fucking complicated, right? But it turns out that actually he wanted to do that straight away, which, in fairness to him, was the common sense move. But interestingly, the rumour is that he was blocked by his cabinet. Reeves, Cooper, Miliband, the big dogs. They blocked him. But you know why they blocked him? Because he had no fucking... He's got no authority. You've got no authority here, Jackie Weaver, right? And that is the problem, isn't it? When you've got a Prime Minister that's lost this guy, lost Morgan McSweeney, lost a by-election, just lost stuff continually. He's sort of like... He's just got no authority at the family table. He's like a dad who bankrupted the family and now doesn't get to talk about anything. I mean, I'll just say personally, I got no idea whether or not this action in the Middle East is like preemptive and a good idea or like a terrible idea that's going to... I have no idea. I think that's okay to say that as a member of the public, you know. On the one hand, do I want Iran to... I mean, forget nuclear weapons. Do I want Iran with ballistic missiles, right? Ballistic missiles that could reach the UK, could reach most of Europe. Not really. On the other hand, does it seem like the Trump regime are going into this with a little bit too much testosterone? Yeah, just a bit. Every time I do a press release, I'm imagining fucking Ace of Spades playing, you know? So this backdrop gave rise to a fiery PMQ. It's always fiery PMQs, isn't it? Fiery PMQs. Kemi, you know, she's had a lot of good press. I think arguably maybe... she's read a bit of it because, anyway, I'll get to that in a sec, but she kind of brings up some of the mistakes over last week. You know, the optics of the UK relying on the French. I mean, this is what I think, like, as much as the public can credit Starmer with standing up to Trump, I just think it was, you know, he was building up a force over a week. I mean, all right, put it this way. When I did my Times radio show last Friday, I fucking knew that there was going to be an attack imminent, right? So it filters down through the news that I knew, Jeff Norcott, right? So the idea that we did not send a warship to the Akrotiri, one of our bases, it's literally our duty to defend it, right? It's staggering. That's a pretty unforgivable mistake. And even now, I think it's still in dock because, you know, they haven't got enough potatoes on board or they don't have any ammunition. I mean, which part of warship? The war part is as much as important as the ship bit. We've pissed off UAE allies. You know, we can't get a ship. We look proper Dad's army. You know what I mean? We look proper. It looks really bad, doesn't it? Britain looks really bad right now. And we had to be helped out by the French. Fucking hell. Does it get any worse? You know? And then the problem is the argument that plays out thereafter is difficult both for the Tories and Labour, right? Is that the Tories, legitimately, Starmer could say, I would not take any lectures. He still hasn't taken a single lecture, Keir, fair play to him. I would not take any lectures from the point for 14 years. It's underfunny. All right, absolutely fair. You know what I mean? That is a legitimate strike of the Tories. But then you've been in power for 2 years now. So why are you not prioritising it? You're promising a minor increase sometime in the future. You've kicked back fucking these defence spending reviews several times, right? And then equally, it is, you know, a strong line from Kemi Badenoch about they're not taking on this spiralling welfare bill. Now, you know, so you can equally pit those two things against each other. And I come to that like financially what's going on with welfare in a second with the spring statement. But it is like This is good for Reform and good for the Greens, isn't it? It is good. All this stuff is good for Reform and good for the Greens. So the Tories got something wrong during their time, and Labour have continued to get it wrong in a different way. And there was, as I say, that poll. I can't remember who it was, but I think it had like Reform on like low 20s, maybe Greens on about 20 or something, and then the Tories and Labour in third and fourth. And it's interesting because that represents a really good week for the Greens, right? But they've now got a high-profile telegenic MP. Is anyone willing to say she's good-looking? But she says very left-wing stuff. She probably says the sort of thing. I mean, all the Labour MPs really want to say. Tax. That's all they really want to say. Tax the rich. Be nice. All the simplistic bullshit they really want to say. She can now just sit there in the Commons and say that stuff. She's going to be an important figure for them in the Commons. But it's interesting, with Reform, because they've had a few funky weeks, haven't they? I mean, it's come home to roost in a way. This weird thing where Farage, and David Domain pointed out to me that he didn't actually go to the base there, but it does seem distracted to be heading out to the Chagos Islands. I know there are legitimate concerns about that deal. I would say that if you stop somebody outside Poundland, they're not, they're going to be thinking about the economy and immigration. The fucking Chega what? Chega fucking what? Right? It's not that high up most people's list. It did seem distracted. And also from Farage, just a simple thing of spending a long, long time saying the Tories broke Britain, and then just signing loads of Tories. I know people fast forward this bit, so I'm going to get it in quick. I'm in Crewe on Saturday and Shrewsbury on Sunday. Then next week I'm in Chorley. That's already sold out. And then I'm in Worcester. And then I'm in some other places. I don't know. Next week I'm in Cornwall. Oh, no. Next week I'm in Cornwall. Taunton's nearly sold out. Hedge End and other places. All right, I kept it really brief. And also I've got an article in the Times today about parenting. Right, so we've done the spring statement. I know we're doing the spring statement now. I mean, that's the point, isn't it? This spring statement is the most irrelevant ever. But the headline features were revised down for 2026. I mean, literally the headline on the BBC, and I don't know if they were trolling Rachel Reeves, but they said, growth down, revised down as Labour insists plan is working. It's like me saying, I've added a second date in Brighton, which definitely isn't selling as quickly as we hope, so the plan is working. I mean, it is fucking... Some of the stuff that they're saying, borrowing is down because the tax take is up, right? Which is a little bit like, hey, good news, everybody. The tax take is up. Yeah, it's because you taxed us more. It's like you're stealing my fucking dinner money and giving me half a sandwich. Hey, look, I just gave you half a sandwich, but you've got all my money. Unemployment is up again. I mean, that is the most surprising thing about this Labour government. I mean, I've always thought at the end of a Labour government there'll be less people in work than there were before. Unemployment will go up. But I did not think it would reach this point so quick, And it's so clearly wedded to the decisions that they make and their own, Wes Streeting. He said they've got no plan for growth. And they don't. It's just a zombie economy that's just kind of like, how zombies walk? They just slowly slouch their way forward. But it's that weird thing, isn't it? Governments have to do it when they're in power. They have to stand up and say, hey, everything's going great, Interest rate cuts, although, interest rates have gone down everywhere in the Western world. Inflation's down. Well, your actions made inflation go up. It's just hard for them, isn't it, economically? Because that's what people really care about at the moment, right? I mean, obviously the Iran thing will be on people's minds for the duration of when it lasts. But even if it does carry on, eventually people's minds will go back to the economy and immigration. And what they said was, we're going to have the highest sustainable growth in the G7. And whether or not we have been the highest in the G7 in this year, people just go, do I feel better off, right? And at the end of this parliament, they're saying that we will be £1,000 on average better off. £1,000, so less than £100 a month across 5 years. That won't feel like much to people, And, the Iran thing might spiral, but that is modest growth when there hasn't been that much happened. If you look at the last parliament, there was a pandemic, there was the first war in Europe for years, the energy price crisis, and there might be another one of those. It's just such modest progress. They said we're going to grow the economy and smash the gangs, and it just doesn't feel like, immigration is going down, and some of that will be because of stuff Rishi did, and some of it is credit to Labour, but Boat crossings are up and the economy is not motoring.
What most people think.
One of the things in the Spring Statement, which kind of came up in P&Qs, which was relevant, is that attack that the welfare bill is set to increase dramatically. I think Ian Dale shared something the other day, saying it's just the most irresponsible thing. It's proposed to go up for, what is it, 330 billion now to 407 billion in no time at all. It's going to increase by the exact size almost of the defence budget. And because Labour MPs have a very poor relationship with economic reality, and the one time the Labour Party did try and take this on, they threw the fucking rattle out of the pram. Labour will not go back to that. They will not go back to that. And so, that was an attack that Kemi stuck with. So we're back with PMQs now, right? And but Starmer, one of the things you can do when you're Prime Minister is you can just lean on the fact you're Prime Minister. You can announce shit. So she asked him a difficult question. And he started announcing flight times for repatriation flights. It's really weird. I know he doesn't answer questions, but she was sort of like, well, are you going to cut welfare and spend on defence? He was like, well, please, I can announce that we've got some flight times coming back. Well, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Are you like mid-1990s CFAX just reading out flight times? And so she got more and more annoyed. She called Labour, she said they're pathetic. Look, I'm not improving of this kind of language. I do find it funny how fucking brutal she could be, though. She said they're pathetic. And then there was like a furore. The Speaker told a couple of people to shut up. And she said, actually, Mr. Speaker, they're pathetic and they're weak. There was also a really funny moment with Starmer where he got confused because of an intervention by the Speaker. And then he went to stand up again before she'd ask her a question. And she was like, yeah, sit down. I mean, I can't help it. Maybe I just like strong women, but I do sort of like it when she sort of brings the fire. But she was becoming more agitated. And I think that she probably took it too far. I think most people... Look, I know there are people right wing that watch this would have loved her putting a flea in his ear, but I'm trying to think of what the country would think. And yeah, scrutinise, even in the face of war. But it did get a bit party political, using pathetic. As much as it amused me and tickled me, she probably went too far. I think that she's getting genuinely annoyed with this man's unwillingness to answer a question. She had two analogies that she did, one which was good and one which was just weird. There was one where she said, you're trying to catch the arrow rather than take out the archer. I thought, fucking hell, this has all gone a bit Chaucerian. And then she accused later on the Labour Party being orcs and goons. I still don't know what she means by that. Does she mean orcs as in like Lord of the Rings orcs? Orcs, or like orcs as in awkward, or orcs, is that some like Gen Z word for like nerds? I have no idea. Orcs is, I'm just thinking Lord of the Rings. Is she getting a Schmeagol? I don't know. Like orcs and goons. But, she got angry. I think she went too far. But I would say this, over the 14 years, Labour, they didn't really extend much sympathy for the difficulties or the things that the Tories were facing. And there will be people that, even if the Tories have complicity in the problems and the lack of preparedness, would have maybe enjoyed what she was articulating there, is that, with no ship in the area, flights taking off, of sort of military capabilities being hopelessly exposed, is that, Britain right now does look like a bit of a flaccid, shriveled little penis. Okay, there you go. As ever, always interested in your views, whether that's a fair... I did try and be fair this week, tempted my kind of fanboying on Kemi with whether or not that was an appropriate performance in the comments. But am I being too old-fashioned? Do you know what I mean? Am I being a bit of... Oh, by the way, so I know I kept saying in the Davina Bentley episode that I was being a boomer. I was using more of that as a pejorative, somebody that has old-fashioned ideas. Of course, I am Gen X, always will be the best generation. But bear in mind, you'd be doing me a favour if you left a good review for this podcast, or recommending it. I still think that's the best way for things to go, said old fucking boomer Jeff, eh? But 5-star reviews and everywhere, please. That's all I ask, everywhere. Oh, by the way, if you like it, I'm trying to put more full episodes on YouTube. So if you want to see it, if you want to actually see how much joy that I was taking of slightly needling Davina Bentley, then you can go and see that on YouTube. But the ones that I can see are on Apple Podcasts. And this one says, always intelligent and relatable. I absolutely love this podcast. It fully dilutes the plethora of banal podcasts. The only thing that grates a bit is today's podcast with the word like being overused. I'm absolutely sure that a regional accent is cute, funny, or sometimes sets my teeth hurting. Bloody poor lazy speech. Oh, bloody poor lazy speech makes my teeth fall out. Jeff is insightful and funny. Thank you. There you go. That one. You had a couple of Merlots when you wrote that one. But yes, there is so much going on. Look, I fucking... You know what I was thinking the other day, right now? You do realise you live in a privileged Western liberal democracy when, like, I was so annoyed about the fact that I was worried about petrol prices going up. And I was like, oh, God, this is the last thing I need. And then I had a moment, like as you get older, you have a moment of clarity, or you should, where I sort of said, yeah. And imagine how it must feel if there are actual fucking bombs dropping where you live. And I've had this discussion with a couple of people. I honestly think I cope better with the extreme... this is like, yeah, you can say that now, Jeff. But minor inconveniences fuck with my head more than the big stuff in life. So I guess what I'm saying is if you're serving in the armed forces, or you got loved ones in the armed forces, or you're anywhere that is at risk. I know I'm not saying that like bombs are dropping everywhere, but it's still a different reality to the one that you knew. So this is very untypical of this podcast, but I'm just sending some love.
What most people think. What most